Every 6 to 8 weeks, a police department responded to the same house for a domestic violence situation where the boyfriend assaulted his girlfriend. He always went to jail, and he always fought with officers. Sometimes it would take 5 or 6 officers just to get him handcuffed and transported to jail. But the last time he was arrested, he still went to jail, but there was no fight. No one was injured, no ugly viral videos, no headlines, no riots. The difference this time was one of the officers used their emotional intelligence to de-escalate the situation. I know a thing or two about policing. I spent over 2 decades in public safety and retired as a chief of police. I worked in corrections, courtrooms, patrol, CSI, 911, detectives, and other assignments where I saw the worst of humanity. Police are in the people business, but we receive little training on how to effectively deal with people, deal with ourselves, and deal with others. Police are equipped with portable radios, body-worn cameras, tasers, handcuffs, ammunition, and a gun. But there's one essential piece of equipment that is missing. That missing piece of equipment is emotional intelligence, also known as EQ. Now, every officer starts their career by attending an academy where they learn pursuit driving, defensive tactics, report writing, and other skills necessary for our profession. But the academy is a sterile environment. Good academies do bring in role players, but it's just not the same as the reality of the streets. When I was a chief of police, we brought in an expert in emotional intelligence. I gotta admit, I was pretty skeptical about how a soft skill like emotional intelligence would work in policing. But once I learned about EQ, I was hooked. Emotional intelligence is the science of understanding and controlling our emotions and recognizing and influencing the emotions of others. Sounds simple, but really hard to do under stress and in traumatic situations. Police deal with people all day long. People having the worst day of their life, people in trauma. But being able to effectively deal with their emotions and our emotions too is just as important as any skill taught in the academy. Being skilled in emotions helps with de-escalating conflict, building trust within a community, and within our own profession, EQ helps with preventing burnout and suicide. I have been teaching and coaching police and public safety professionals about EQ since 2015. Like me, their initial reaction is one of reasonable suspicion. But once I'm able to show them the benefits of EQ to them both professionally and personally, they eat it up. During the workshops, we learn and apply EQ elements like emotional expression, empathy, active listening, optimism, and resilience. We deal with a ton of emotions in policing: anger, frustration, fear, sadness, grief, and disgust. If there's an emotion to be had, there's a good chance a police officer has felt it. But the reality is, if an officer is angry at a suspect who has beat his wife or hurt a child, they still have to control their emotions so they don't jeopardize the case or their career. As a former internal affairs investigator and chief of police, almost 100% of the cases I dealt with had an emotional component to it. Whether it was a jail deputy who let an inmate get under his skin, or a patrol officer who used excessive force during an arrest, they let their emotions get the best of them. EQ needs to be taught in every academy and coached throughout careers. Dr. Mark Brackett of Yale University uses the acronym RULER to help people improve in their EQ. RULER stands for recognizing, understanding, labeling, expressing, and regulating. Let's talk about 3 of these. Recognition. The key to recognition is accurately knowing our emotions and those of others. What mood is an officer in when they start their shift? Are they still mad at their spouse for the fight they had before they came to work? Are they still mad at that driver who cussed them out before they pulled over you? Or, like we teach in our workshops, have they reset their emotions from that situation to have a more positive interaction with you? Understanding. Understanding where our emotions come from and why we are feeling them is key to improving our emotional intelligence. The stronger the emotion, the stronger the need to know why, because you've got to name it to tame it. Why am I pursuing the driver of a car that's fleeing from me? Am I angry that they've challenged my authority? Am I still operating within my agency's policies and procedures? Or have I let my emotions get the best of me? Regulating. Regulating one's emotion is key to self-control and one of the hardest things we have to do in policing. We see a ton of trauma in policing. The average person in the US experiences 3 to 4 traumatic events in their lifetime. Police in the United States experience 400 to 600 traumatic events in their career. 400 to 600. But being able to regulate their emotions not only helps them survive in this career, but thrive in this career and be a better public servant for you. Police officers can regulate their emotions by seeing a therapist, talking with a colleague, meditating and exercising. I know I worked off a ton of emotions during my career by running. Okay, jogging. I would leave my house for a jog, angry and frustrated, and return home a much calmer person. So what changed in the story about the boyfriend who went to jail without a fight? Well, one of the officers used their emotional intelligence. At the point where a fight would have previously taken place, an officer asked the suspect, "Why do you always fight with us? You still go to jail." The boyfriend responded that he hated being arrested in front of his son. Now disregard the paradox of committing violence in front of his son. He just didn't want to be arrested in front of his son. Again, the officer used excellent emotional intelligence, and he took a risk. He asked the boyfriend that if they stepped out onto the porch, away from the view of his son, would he go peacefully? The boyfriend said he would, and everybody stepped out onto the porch. The boyfriend turned around, put his hands behind his back, was handcuffed, and transported to jail without a fight. Emotional intelligence needs to be integrated in all aspects of policing and public safety. So many of our problems could be solved with effective EQ. Think of the trust that could be restored within your community. Now, some may say we don't have the funding for this type of training, but we could certainly use the money saved from fewer lawsuits, fewer claims, and fewer riots. We can't afford not to. Thank you.